Hello, hello, hello. My name is Yoshinator, and welcome back to another episode of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Gaming. And today in this episode, I am stepping back in time, roughly, even though it's been a month since this gameplay and slash game mode was released, with Sleigh Ride Resurgence, the Christmas game mode that came out, which was all about going to Uzbekistan and having this kind of Santa guy on a train going around and basically giving out presents, but sort of also trying to kill you, and the circle followed them. And I remember during the month of December, it was a hell of a fun time. There were some times where I'm like, some of the choices, like, I don't get why it's a zombie Santa. Like, okay, Treyarch, I guess that's just a weird twist on that thing. But yeah, look, it was an okay mix-up. You know, the Christmas trees with the gifts, they kind of became like little hot zones and death spots for us to kind of just, you know, slowly pick people off, and then sometimes also, well, mainly me, be sometimes idiotic and just go to these Christmas trees and be those just lambs to the slaughter with people looking down upon us and just picking me off. But in general, this game mode to me was fairly fun. There were some things I didn't, like. For example, something that kind of bugged me a little bit is all this snow, and you can kind of see right there. And it's just like, okay, I get it. It's snowing. We get it. Like, you don't need to have it like everywhere while you're on the ground floor. Like maybe when you're flying and then, but okay, whatever. Now, this gameplay, I remember this being like just one of the kind of smoothest, cleanest types of squad, kind of going from point to point, surviving for quite some time, and nothing really going too horrendously crazy from memory. And they had a really great player. I think he ended up with 16 kills by the end. And even though I thought I did okay-ish with my 5 kills, comparison to him, he was just absolutely killing it. And I've spoken about this in a previous episode, that sometimes you just get paired up with some really, really good people, and it's almost just luck. I don't know how it happens. I'm not a good Call of Duty player, but at least on that level, so it seems like it was just like a random matchup. But I kind of want to talk about the good old days in this episode, because we are kind of talking, this footage is quote unquote a month old. But I remember, watching the commentaries of Call of Duty of Hutch and SeaNanners and Machinima, and that kind of those early days of when those characters and those people were like rising to the fame, or even like during the early YouTube, like YouTube was becoming kind of a big deal. And now that I'm like slightly, around that, I guess probably their age, that they probably would have been doing the commentaries, maybe slightly older. It's so like, it's really weird, peculiar feeling to think about. Like, not that I'm like anywhere near their level in terms of their commentary, but I'm almost like, I don't know, it feels like fun to kind of follow in their footsteps in a way. And I'm actually really kind of just enjoying this commentary kind of feel to the footage. And I'd imagine maybe that's how they would have felt back in the day. And it's weird, like the inner child in me who was like, following them and paying, attention to them and seeing their journey from very, very early days of Machinima before it became this, quote unquote god awful mess and just kind of abusing its creators. But watching them go from just like, I think Hutch was working as a waiter, and he would come home from work and play Call of Duty and make videos from that, and he'd just talk about the game and what he enjoyed. Slowly became, a little bit about his life. Even now, I was just like driving back from basketball, and I was put on some Hutch, and his girlfriend at the time, Julia, came on. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember this commentary with him talking, with this girl that he broke up with, and now he's got together, and like he's kind of had like that young love feeling, and regardless of it, like, it wasn't really much about the gameplay, like he wasn't focused on it. I kind of just remember that nostalgia of, man, I remember Hutch going through those phases and living alone and then doing this out of his apartment, then getting, in touch with Machinima and slowly getting some revenue from them, and then started working for Machinima, and then rekindling a flame from an old love. All this stuff, like I was like kind of like semi-invested, in his life. I obviously don't know the guy, but I just remember like his journey through Machinima and how much fun he had along the ways, particularly with SeaNanners and Mr. Sark doing those videos together as a team. And even when they just like disbanded, I still kind of followed when it was Mr. Sark and APL Fisher doing the mailbox episodes in that like basement in Hollywood from behind the scenes, just cracking up and filming. And I'm just like, man, and kind of like thinking, what's happened to those guys now? And like, I know that they're still somewhat active. I'm pretty sure SeaNanners is, doing his thing, and, they seem to be doing fairly well. Like, it's obviously very different. They have, obviously, I think SeaNanners is more focused on other games now, not just Call of Duty, but he seems to be still playing with those same kind of guys. They still like obviously bond and have that friendship. Hutch seem to like maybe being a little bit more on the Twitch side from what I gather, although I must admit I kind of dropped off. I think I last checked out his channel today. He seemed to be a little bit more on the commentary side, maybe a little bit more political and cultural events. Mr. Sark seems to be doing well. Like, it seems like he's still got like 1.3 million subscribers. I love these like channel descriptions, which was like something like, if mac and cheese were a video game, I'd be in the top leaderboards. And I'm just like, I love that. Like, that's like that, encapsulates Mr. Sark so well. And I think APL's still around. I think he had like 99k subscribers last time I checked today. And I'm just like, man, I don't want to be like that, South Park. Remember that? Remember the memory berries? Remember, man? I remember. And just thinking back, to the good old days in terms of like how life is not as good now. Like, no, life is actually really good now. I'm just saying, like, obviously the world's completely changed and there's so many different things now. But I just kind of was feeling a little bit reminiscent, especially now that I've, begun my quote unquote cold gaming commentary journey, and seeing the enjoyment that I'm, slowly getting from it. And it's kind of reflecting what I, had when I was watching them. And, I just remember those times. I always felt like, that's, I was going to say they felt simpler, and that's in a way, like, that's, you can say that about the past in general. And, you always look back on life and you're like, those are simpler times. I always hear people say that, like, and Call of Duty especially, I think throughout the years has been progressively more complex. It's like the complexity has just increased. So, regardless of whether or not you have rose-tinted glasses on the past and you always thought things were better in the past, which I'm not, advocating for, because I always enjoy, trying to live in the present, and the future is very exciting. And what I'm saying is Call of Duty, it's evolved, has been so interesting to watch. Like COD 4, from when Hutch, I believe, started out, and then he probably got popular around maybe Modern Warfare 2. Not many people, I think, were doing World at War Call of Duty commentaries, even though I actually kind of liked that game. The best kill streak was the dogs, and till this day, that's in my top, I'm going to put it out there, top 5 kill streaks from Call of Duty. It's a side tangent. I was happy that they brought it back later in Black Ops, and it's unfortunate I don't think it's in this one, but I digress. What I meant to say is the complexity of Call of Duty has just slowly increased over time. And in ways it's been good, and sometimes I think it's been bad. Like, it depends on, your viewpoint of how much worthwhile is the complexity. You look back at Call of Duty 2, which I've mentioned in the previous episode is still my favorite Call of Duty, maybe because I'm a kind of a person who likes less is more, and it was also my first Call of Duty, so maybe I'm a little bit, nostalgic for it, and it holds a special place in my heart. But you look at that game, there's no perks. Everyone has like 6 classes per different country, the Germans or the British, and the Americans. And those are the 6 guns you've got. You've got 1 shotgun, you got 1 sniper, maybe two. You got a rifle, a couple submachine guns, That's it. There's no perks whatsoever. You're out there. And to me, I really, really appreciate the simplicity. I really like how like level-headed everything else is. It seems as fair as possible, was very equal. And, you know, obviously it had great maps, but I just enjoyed it from that gun point of view. And you think about also like I was debating, is recoil worth in a Call of Duty, you know, there's something, and even, you know, the quick scoping factor, like at the time when I think Black Ops came out and Treyarch decided like, no, sniping, no, we cannot do quick scoping. We're going to like nerf the aim down sight to be super slow. And people was outraged because it's like quick scoping was like the funnest thing. That was like the part of, you know, COD 2, COD 4, Modern Warfare 2. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I don't want to snipe now. Like, why? Like, I get it. It's not real, you know, quote unquote realistic. But at the same time, it's a video game. It's meant to be fun. Like, why ruin that fun? It doesn't have to be super, super, super hyper realistic, you know. If you want a game like that, then let that, you know, for another developer, like Battlefield. To me, I think, you know, it's a bit of a disadvantage. And since then, I don't know, sniping has been maybe up and down, but it's never been like Modern Warfare 2 or even that COD 2, that quick level of sniping. So as over time, you can kind of see like complexity is sort of, you know, I guess has to be, in some ways, it has to be the go-to for game developers because they're also trying to think, how do we innovate the game? And most often not, that, you know, comes down to, you know, increasing the complexity. So adding in perks, adding in kill streaks. And with each iteration, there have been good ones and then bad ones. And in some ways, I feel like you can overdo it to an extent, you know. Adding in kill streaks is fine because you add like another simple layer to it. Adding in perks, you add another simple layer to it. But when you continually kind of keep going, sometimes, I don't know, it feels like it can kind of ruin the game a little bit. And even when Modern Warfare, in 2019 version, the Modern Warfare version came out, and they added in the gun customization, people love that. And I think in a way that I like it, is great. You know, you add really this level of customizability. I don't know what the word is, customability. That's not the word. But you have this customization towards the gun. And you get like 6 attachment, and there's like a bunch of red dot sights. You got different barrels, different, you know, stocks to use, whatever. It's like, okay, this is like, you could spend a lot of time doing this. And that, in a way, it's kind of fun. You try to play and, you know, figure out what's the best combination here or there. And then it's also like, how much do you trust these in-game stats versus what actually happens in the game? You know, that to me has always been a thing. Like, do I really trust they're saying, okay, increase pressure or increase damage? Is that actually going to increase damage? Is that really going to increase my mobility, the aim down sight? How much? Like, whatever. And it gets to a point, though, that I feel like I could be there for hours, days on end, customizing, trying different things. Where, I don't know, to me, sometimes I just want to, simple as more. I just want to get into the game, get my gun and hit it. And something like recoil, where like, do you need to have all these guns to have, you know, sometimes ridiculous recoil where you are like almost like rewarding almost the minority of players that can actually handle that gun, instead of saying like, let's make everything kind of, it's fairly easy to pick up but hard to master. I think that to me would have been a more interesting approach, and maybe that's why, you know, the past games I could have enjoyed, because they're easy to pick up. Any newbie can pick up a nice gun, any gun that feels nice to shoot because there's not much recoil. It's quick to aim down sight. Get a sniper, just aim down, boom, there it is. So quick to pick up, quick to learn, hard to master. To me, is the state of a good philosophy of a good game, I think. Whereas if you increase that level of difficulty and suddenly guns become hard to use, you're going to lose a good portion of people that, to me, will just straight up not use that gun or just stop playing the game entirely because things are just too hard It's like, why am I playing this game? I'm not going to invest hours and hours on end to learn how to freaking use this gun with just crazy amount of recoil. And sometimes I just feel like that's how I feel like sometimes, in terms of like, I'm just going to stay away from this gun. And there are guns in this game that, like, as much as I feel, inclined to level up and trying to get things completed, I'm never going to use this gun ever again because it's terrible. It's just completely pointless. And none of them feel like, equal in that sense because of stuff like the recoil, because of the stuff of like the damage factor. For example, I think it's a gun called the sniper rifle, the STK, if I'm not mistaken, which is the second last gun that can be unlocked. It's like a semi, auto rifle, semi-auto rifle, I believe that's it, semi-auto sniper, that just shoots freaking pellets. It's completely useless. And like, every time I see it, I don't know why it's in the game. It's pointless. And I don't get why people would even use this gun. Why do the developers create something like that? Because it's so hard to use. It's like you're playing at a disadvantage, and clearly they would see stats of who's using guns. I'm not going to use this gun. So to me, I'm like, I don't like that. I like, every gun has its advantage, but they should all be equal in terms of how much damage they can kind of provide, if that makes sense. For example, obviously the big difference is a sniper has one, so obvious and dumb, I know, but one sniper bullet can, say, let's do 100 damage, whereas a submachine gun, you need like 10 bullets or 15 to get the same amount of damage. That's good though. Like, as a high rate of fire with a submachine gun, that's what it needs to do. A sniper has one bullet, that's what it needs to do. Same with a shotgun. Shotgun, one shot, it's, close range, but it has the same, roughly the same amount of damage. It should kill a person within close range. And in that sense, I feel like the balance occurs by having different types of guns that have fairly even amount of, or very equivalent amount of damages. And so even like if you compare two snipers, the STK should be able to do the same job as this gun, the AMR sniper. It should not be any different. Even if it has, like I say, a different, rate of fire, you should be compensated for that in terms of, say, 2 bullets from the STK should take out a guy, but you can shoot fairly quickly versus 1 bullet from an AMR, or vice versa. Even though I think the STK probably should do a better job in general, like 1 bullet, full stop. That's why, you look back at like the semi-auto rifle Modern Warfare 2, the Barrett versus the Intervention. It's a semi-auto, but it can take out people with 1 shot still. So that's, to me, like what a sniper should do. So I don't know. Maybe I'm spitting absolute BS here as a game developer hat on myself, but for some reason I just want a little bit more equality around the guns, because there are like a bunch of guns that I just will never use in this game because of that factor. And things like the sniper, like, I just want it to be easier to use so it can be a little bit more fun. And maybe that's why, as much as I'm being nostalgic, I hope I have some sort of logic behind my reminiscing of the good old days, because, I don't know. I missed out on, I'm not going to say I missed out on all those games, but I miss out on having those, elements still here today in this modern era. But anyways, coming back to this wrap up here, this has been like, you can kind of see like we've been survived the whole time, and I almost thought I was going to freaking, completely, cook it right here, and couldn't even reload. I had like I got 3 bullets. I'm still not reloading for some reason. I'm just freaking out. I have no gas mask, and somehow just survive to keep us in there. But that, to me, I don't think I got down, but just so smooth. And if you just follow that route across the map of the Uzbekistan, and look at this guy, Siggy just had like 16 eliminations, 12 kills. I mean, that's just, to me, I felt very lucky to have him as a teammate, and I'm still at the bottom, even though I felt I actually did something during this game. But hey, look, there you go. That's my nostalgic, reminiscing rant for the day. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.